like on 40. Symmetry. On the unit test for this unit, you have to be able to tell me if something is symmetric with the x-axis, the y-axis, or the origin. And I don't mean by giving you a picture, really. I mean by giving you an equation. So remember, for the x-axis, if xy is on the graph, then to flip over the x-axis, the y changes. So remember to check that. You just plug in x negative y, and you see, does it stay the same or does it change? And then if you did your homework, maybe you realize if it's an even exponent that you plug it into, that negative will always go away. If it's an odd exponent, it's going to stay the same. So that's how you know yes or no, is it symmetric? That doesn't mean you really have to show a lot of work on that. You just have to know the rule. Y-axis means that the x changes sign, so that means you do negative x, y. Some people on the quiz did want to just say this or this. You have to say, is it the x-axis or the y-axis? So make sure you know it. And for the origin, just make sure you remember that both of them change. And again, you're really just looking at the exponents to see if even exponent, a negative is not going to affect it. An odd exponent is going to change the sign. I feel like that's the big thing from section 2.2. I got two more sections, but it's going to be, you're going to have most of the hour to work on your review today. Maybe. Okay, everybody okay for me going on with this? Hope not. When I get to do all this. Section 2.3, that was kind of the big review of Algebra 1. You have to make sure that you know how to find the slope, right? Rise over run. So that's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Also, make sure you throw in there knowing the difference between a vertical and a horizontal line, right? X equals a number means that it is undefined slope, and that's going to look like a vertical line. Y equals a number is zero slope, which is a flat line like that. I feel like those are the ones that people mix up the most. You definitely need to be able to graph equations, not in slope-intercept form. Like, you could put them in slope-intercept form. The parallel and perpendicular line stuff, that's on your unit test, so make sure you know parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. And I'm just going to give you a few problems today to do that. We also wrote equations. If I gave you 2 points and I said write an equation in slope-intercept form, you should be able to do that. If I gave you an x and y intercept, if I gave you a slope and a point, right? We did a lot of those. So probably you're going to want to write those in y equals mx plus b form. Or the general form, which I don't know that anyone uses that, but ax plus by equals c. I think the directions in your homework gave you those options. Reciprocal, that's a C. My shorthand. And then the last section we did was the variation. And again, you just have to know what those words mean, and then read the problems, right? Like, don't get overwhelmed by all of it at once. Like, take it a step at a time. And so I'm just going to kind of give you the formulas again, and I didn't really like the examples that I could find in your book besides the ones we already did, so I made you a little worksheet today of the variation stuff, but then the other stuff I have problems in your book for. But because on the unit test, the direct, inverse, and joint variation problems that they give you are very much like the ones that we already did in the book, and I couldn't find any more like that, so I made a worksheet. But remember that direct variation uses the word varies directly or is directly proportional, and it just means that you multiply by some constant, right? Don't forget your constant. Inverse variation means you're dividing by x, or whatever you're saying varies inversely, right? And that's a division sign. And varies jointly means that there are 3 total letters. We could say, like, y varies jointly as x and z. And there's 3 total things, your constant and 2 other things multiplied. And then sometimes there's a combination of those, But those are the three basic ones. And so I feel like some people were really struggling with that. So maybe you want to start with the worksheet today. But I'm going to give you some book problems and a worksheet. And that all together is your review. Tomorrow, just like before in Unit 1, you're going to turn in all of the homework we've done so far, plus this review before we take the quiz tomorrow. All right, so I'm going to give you time to work, so that way you can hopefully get your questions answered. Okay with that? So here is your book homework. This is from the Chapter 2 review, so on page 195 and 196. I want you to do 9 through 15 multiples of 3, 27 through 36, and then 37, 38, 41, and 42. That's, I think, 11 problems. And then I have a worksheet that has 4 problems on it. So that's 15 problems, and you have 40 minutes to work on this, which means there should be no reason that you don't get this finished today. Make sure you get your questions answered. Definitely the odd ones, check in the back of the book. On this worksheet, if you want to just try it and then let me look at it and make sure that you have the right answer, then we can make sure that we're doing that correctly. Okay, so I'm going to pass this out, and then I don't mind if you work with someone a little bit, but make sure that you're working and using your time wisely, because remember that all of your homework